The Princess and the Secret of the Hidden River. Princess Leora lived in a tall, sunlit castle with walls covered in climbing roses and windows that opened to the sound of rushing water from the valley below. She was known throughout the kingdom, not just for her bright golden hair or her curious green eyes, but for her restlessness. While other princesses were content to sit through endless lessons in embroidery, Leora would slip away into the gardens to climb apple trees, sneak into the kitchens to knead bread with the bakers, and race the stable boys on her horse, Riverwind. One late morning, as the bells of the castle tolled noon, Leora found herself leaning on the highest balcony, staring down at the wide, winding river. Its surface glimmered like silver silk, and she could almost hear it whisper her name. Something was wrong with it today. It looked lower than usual, as if the water had been stolen away. The reeds near the edge sagged, and the fish pools she could usually spot from up high were nothing but damp mud. The king and queen were away visiting a distant province. The steward assured her everything was fine, but Leora could not shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. That night she packed a small satchel, bread, cheese, a flask of water, and her father's small dagger for safety, and made a decision. She would find out what was happening to the river herself. Before sunrise, Leora slipped out through the side gate, leading Riverwind quietly through the dew-damp grass. The castle guards were still changing shifts, and barely noticed the princess ride out. The wood smelled fresh and green, with birds beginning to sing their first songs of the day. The river curved through the forest like a shining ribbon, and Leora kept close to it, following its course upstream. Hours passed, and the sound of rushing water grew quieter instead of louder. Soon she came to a place where the river split, one branch running thin and dry, as if its lifeblood had been drained away. "Strange," she murmured. "This should be roaring." That was when she heard a noise, a soft thump, 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 like someone beating a drum. Leora slid off Riverwind and followed the sound. It led her to a clearing where a tiny, long-eared creature sat beside the river, tapping on a hollow log with a stick. "Who are you?" Leora asked. The creature leapt up, startled. It was no taller than her knee, with fur the colour of moss and two large eyes like polished amber. "You can see me?" it asked in a small, piping voice. "Yes," said Leora, kneeling down. "Are you a sprite?" The creature puffed its chest proudly. "I am a brookling, guardian of this part on the river. And you, princess, are very late. We have been waiting for you." The brookling, who introduced himself as Thistle, explained that the river was being stolen. "A shadow has blocked the flowstone," he said gravely. "Without the flowstone, the river cannot run." "What is the flowstone?" Leora asked. "The heart of the river," Thistle replied. "A crystal deep inside the mountain that guides the water. It has been guarded for centuries, but 3 nights ago, a stranger came, cloaked and silent, and sealed it away. Now the river grows weaker every day." Leora's hands clenched. "Then I must unseal it." "Show me the way." Thistle tilted his head. "You are brave, but it is a hard path. There are thorns that will scratch, roots that will trip, and watchers that will not let you pass." "I am not afraid," said Leora. The brookling gave a small smile. "Very well, princess. Follow me." Thistle led Leora to a hidden path overgrown with brambles. The vines seemed to move on their own, closing behind them as they walked. "This is the thorn maze," Thistle warned. "You must not let it sense your fear, or it will trap you." Leora took a deep breath and stepped inside. The maze was dark and narrow, with prickly branches clawing at her sleeves. Every time she hesitated, the vines rustled closer, as if ready to swallow her whole. "Think forward," Thistle whispered. "The maze listens to thoughts." Leora focused on the picture of the flowstone shining brightly in her mind. She walked with steady steps, even when thorns scraped her arms. At last, they emerged into sunlight. The maze quivered angrily behind them, then stilled. "You are stronger than you look," Thistle said with admiration. They soon reached a wooden bridge spanning a deep ravine. The planks were crooked, and below them the ravine yawned like a black mouth. "The bridge tests those who cross," said Thistle. "It will repeat your own voice to you, but not always truthfully." Leora stepped onto the bridge, and at once a voice echoed up from below. "Go back, little princess," it said, sounding exactly like her. "You will fall." Leora's heart hammered, but she kept walking. Another echo came, crueler this time. "You cannot save the river." "You will only make things worse." She gritted her teeth. "I will not listen." The bridge shook and creaked, but she kept her eyes on the far side. Finally, she stepped onto solid ground, and the echoes vanished. "You passed," said Thistle softly. "Few ever do." By late afternoon, they reached the foot of the Grey Peak Mountain. Its slopes rose high, streaked with waterfalls that now trickled pitifully. At the base was a cave, and from within came a faint humming sound. "That is the Flowstone's chamber," Thistle said. "But beware, the stranger may still be inside." Leora drew her dagger and entered. The cave walls glittered faintly with veins of quartz, and the air was cool and damp. At the far end, the flowstone glowed faintly behind a barrier of black crystal. Before it stood a tall figure in a cloak. "Who are you?" Leora demanded. The figure turned. It was a woman, her face pale and lined like cracked marble, her eyes as deep as the riverbed. "I am Morwen," she said, "once the keeper of the flowstone." Now its prisoner Morwen lowered her hood, revealing silver hair that fell like a waterfall. "I was sworn to guard the flowstone," she said, her voice low, "but I grew weary. For centuries I kept watch while the river flowed freely, yet no one remembered my work, no one thanked me. So I sealed the flowstone. Let them see what happens when I am gone." Leora's anger softened. She could see the loneliness in Morwen's eyes. "You are right that you deserved thanks," Leora said gently, "but punishing the river punishes everyone. The children who play in its pools, the farmers who water their crops, the creatures who drink from its banks." Morwen's face twisted. "Why should they matter to me?" "Because you matter to them," Leora replied, "even if they forgot to say it." Morwen stood in silence for a long moment. Then she reached out a trembling hand toward the black crystal. With a crack like thunder, the barrier shattered. The flowstone flared to life, sending a warm blue glow through the entire cave. Water roared somewhere deep within the mountain, as if the heart of the earth had started beating again. "You have done what I could not," Morwen said softly. "You reminded me why I chose to guard this place." She handed Leora a small crystal shard. "Take this. It is a piece of the flowstone's light. Keep it with you, and the river will always answer your call." The journey back to the castle was quicker, with the river rushing beside them once more, full and alive. The fish leapt, the reeds stood tall again, and the sound of the water was like music. When Leora rode through the castle gates, the steward nearly fainted. "Princess! You were gone 2 days. The king and queen." "Will be glad the river is safe," Leora said calmly. She went straight to the balcony and looked out at the valley. The river gleamed proudly, wider and stronger than ever. When the king and queen returned, they heard the whole story. Instead of scolding Leora for her daring, they listened carefully, then called for a feast to honour her bravery. That night, as the castle filled with laughter and the sound of clinking goblets, Leora slipped away to the balcony once more. She held the shard of the flowstone and felt its soft glow. Somewhere far away, Morwen stood watch again, no longer forgotten. Leora smiled to herself. She was still a restless princess, but now she had learned that adventures were not just for fun. They could save a kingdom. And so, whenever the river whispered, Leora was ready to listen.